Alright, so this will be the tool which we are going to use. It is MS 2019 Microsoft version. And after completing this course of SQL, what we will be able to do and what type of things we can do as a beginner programmer after completing the course. Alright, so here you can see the new query. Let me just connect my pen. It's too long. Alright, then for first I mean 2 to 3 days for now, we are not just going to learn anything in SQL. We are just going to see what we will be able in to do after completing this course. Okay.
First, I want to
Uh-huh.
ask something.
Yes, yes,
I was
please.
trying to download the SQL 2019.
Uh-huh.
What should I download? The Azure or there are options here? SQL Server and Azure,
Okay,
Edge.
okay, okay. So I'll share the link which one you need to download, and after that
Okay.
you need to download SSMS. So all the package will be available. What the link I will provide to you. Don't worry about
Okay. Thank
that.
you, ma'am.
So okay, okay. So we have just covered what SQL is. A little bit of that. We are going to still learn about this SQL more, the introduction part, as well as why we need SQL as a database, and there are much more things we are going to cover. But first 2 to 3 days of these classes, one as already we have covered, this is our second class, right? So I'm not just started the learning of SQL, because it is very important to know that why we are learning this and why we are taking this course, and in what the position you will be after completing this course. These things also matters. So 2 or 3 more days will be based on that particularly, and after that I will create PPTs for each and every topics in detail, so that you can learn much more better. Okay. So why we are learning this SQL and what we will be covering. So I already have told you that what is DBMS, database management system. Yeah. So we are going to use SQL, MS SQL, which is a product of Microsoft, and we are going to write the queries in that tool. And what are queries? Queries is basically, I told you earlier that programming language, in programming language, as a programmer we need to tell the computer, we need to give the computer instructions step by step, that how you should do a particular task, right? But in query we don't need to tell how you can do this. We just only need what I want, right? So say in example of file management system, we don't know where the file was saved, what kind of data are there. We cannot say these kind of things by just looking the folder, right? In the same way, if I write a query, I cannot say that where the data has gone and what type of data they are going to fetch and what kind of internal task the tool has is needed to do. These kind of things are handled by this tool. All of these things we just need to mention what type and what data I want, what data I want, right? But again, computer is not a human, right? If I want a glass of water, I can simply say you that please bring a glass for water me, right? But if this will only work if you know English and I know English too, right? Only then we can communicate with each other. Same way, our computer doesn't know our language like English, Hindi or any other one. So I need to learn programming languages to give the instructions to the computer. In the same way, if I want some kind of data from this tool, I need to learn the language of this tool, right? Only then I can tell this tool MS SQL that what kind of data I want and how much data I want and in what database, all about these things. So only if I know the language which this tool understand, then only I can give the questions or give the our requirement so that he can fetch the data or just bring to us, right? So SQL is basically that language. This language is understood by this tool, and we need to learn this language so that I can give commands, I can give instructions, I can give our requirement to this tool. So this is what we are going to learn, this SQL as a language. Just as we learn from our birth our mother tongue, then the English, some international languages like English, and then the other languages, same way if we want to work with this tool, we need to learn the language of this tool. And not only MS SQL, there are so many tools available which we can use, like we have MySQL concept. The syntax of SQL and MySQL is mostly same, but it's quite different because it is going to used in PHP, and this one can be used in .NET projects because it is a product of Microsoft, right? So again, .NET is also a product of Microsoft. So different tools from different companies are there, and SQL is basically the core of that. If I know SQL, I can easily learn MySQL. If I know SQL, I can easily go to Oracle database, and there are much more than this. So the core of all these things is SQL language that we are going to learn. Okay, all right. Now I'll introduce you to this tool, which is our, you can see, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, right? So say in a, for an example, let's say this is our my memory, and obviously whatever the data will be there, I need to store this memory in this data in only memory. There are two kinds of memory, RAM and ROM, right? And for large amount data to store, we use our hard disk, nowadays SSD. So these kind of data will obviously be stored in our memory. If suppose I am running this program in this tool, so obviously whatever the data I want to save, that data will obviously saved into my hard disk, right? But to connect with these memories, these datas, we need to have some kind of tools which we are going to use this one for this purpose. Okay, Now we have talked about tables, data, actually first of all data and then table and then the database, right? Let's say I run a school. In my school there will be lots of children will be there, right? And for children purpose I need some data of those children's, like what's or his or her name, how old he is, how where do they live. So all kind of things I need to know about him, right? So this is all right, name, age, address. So these are termed as datas, right? Datas which present this person, this student, right? Which represent this student. So obviously I need to save these kind of data for this particular student. Or if I have, if in my school there will be 100 students, I need to the same kind of data for all those 100 students as well, right? So this is what we call as data. Now what is table? Different objects, for different objects we create different tables. Like let's say I run a school. So the first object which I have is a school, right? There will be obviously a building or a virtual school must be there, right? So obviously the detail of the first thing will be the is details of a school, what the school name is, what the address of the school is, what is the website of this is school. So all these kind of data I need for my school, right? So the first object which I got is this school. Now the other objects, let's say if I ran a school, obviously there will be some students. So the second object is our student. Then obviously for teaching a student we need to have some teachers. So again teacher is also a object. And the next one, let's say other staffs who may be some kind of do other things, right? So these kind of objects present in my school, right? So we will create different tables for to store data of different objects. Let's say for a school I will create a different table and I will just simply name it as a school table. And in that table I will first of all need to consider what kind of data I can store. So I can store these kind of things, right? Name, address, website. So I will create different column. Table is nothing but a combination of rows and columns, right? So for different we can say it as a properties. So for school we need to store different kind of data. So all that kind of data will be represented as a column: name, address, website. Why I don't create a single row for this? Let's say my school name is XYZ, it's not only single row, because let's say I have only one branch for my school right now, but it expanded to another branch as well. So for another city or country I will have another uh, branch, right? So at the same time, at that point of time I also need these kind of things for this school as well, right? So that's why I will create different columns for different property things, different things which I need to store about this school. Let table 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 table, this is also a object. So I will create again a different table particularly dedicated to this student. And obviously there will not be only one student studying in my school, there will maybe 100 or maybe 1000 of students will be there, right? So based on that, first of all I need to consider what kind of data I want to store about students. So let's just think of this. Let's say the first thing I need the name of this, then the age or maybe DOB, not the age, and then the address, and again the father's name, mother's name, and there are much more information I can store about the student. So but we need to consider these things before creating any table, what kind of data I can store. So I will again create different column to store different, like name, then we have age, then we have dob. And now because I need same kind of data for different students, let's say currently I have only 100 students, so I will create 100 for each and every student. Okay, let's say one of the student name is Meera, her age is 25, dob will be something like that, address will be something. One of the student is Khushbu, her age is 25, dob is something. So I will create different rows for different students, but the columns will be same for each and every student because I need same kind of data for each and every student, right? All right, so this is what about we have talking about student table. Now the other object which we have is teacher, right? So obviously if I am running a school, I need some teachers so that they can teach. So again, what kind of data I want, first of all I need to consider this. So again I need to know the name, maybe qualification of the student, and then the age again, and the address, and again some kind of uh, maybe what is his favorite subjects, or what he can teach, what subjects he can teach or he or she can teach. Let's say language or subject which he can teach. So these kind of things I again need for this teacher table. So I will again create a table dedicated to this teacher, and I will have same column. I will just declare these as a columns, and I will have different rows for different teachers, but the columns will always be same for each and every teacher. Okay, now this is what we have learned, that a database is what? A database is nothing but a collection of tables, right? So what the tables we have till now? We have a student table, we have a school
Teachers.
table, we have teachers table, right? So we can see clearly that we have three tables, and this combinedly will be termed as what? Database, our database. And again I need to give a name to this database. We cannot simply say only database, I need to give a name. So let's say this is to manage my school, right? So I'll give a name like school management. So this is the name of my database, and these are the names of for my tables. There can be different tables for different objects, for different purpose, right? Let's say think of a subjects, what kind of subjects I provide in my school. So there will be a separate table for subject. So it totally depends on the requirement, what kind of data I need to store. I will create different tables for different objects. That's it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now the interface term. So I already have told you that what a query is. From here I will just click on new query. Okay, and here you can see that there are different names: brand wine hour management, gmail, hospital, hour management, online exam. So these are different database which I have created in last few months or years, right? And inside this, if I expand this table section, So we can clearly see student management. We have only one table, student table. Only student table I have. Or let me just. No. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. So in this student table, what we have, how can I see that? Just right click on this and go to design part. What is design and how we design a table or a database? We are going to learn all of them. But for now, just see how we can use this tool. So this is what I need to store of all the students. So I have taken student id, student name, father name, and dob. Only that kind of things I want from the student. So these are the columns. Now let's just see the rows. If I want to see the rows, what kind of data it has stored, I can just simply right click on it. Let's say there is a student called Khushbu Kumari. So I will create Khushbu, father name is XYZ, and DOB is something, anything for now. So this is what a day. So this is what a student details. So it is basically for only one student. Let's say we have another student with name Mira, again XT, and anything like. So this is again. So this is again different student details. So same way, if anyone has come to our school, I'll just insert a new row for my new student. If someone has leave my school, then I'll just simply delete the records of that student, right? So we can see that we have different properties for this different students, right? Now the first thing which we are going to learn about is design. This is very important. How to design a table. How to design a table, because obviously if we are going to manage something, then we need to manage them in the form of tables for different objects, for different tables, right? So the first thing we are going to learn about is how to design a table. We are going to see first of all the requirement, right? For the requirement, what the requirements I need, on the basis of that I am going to create different tables with different columns, right? So let's say I need to create a hospital management project or a software, right? So obviously the first object which this hospital is, obviously the hospital details, right? What the name of this hospital, who is trustees of this hospital, what kind of patients can come here, so all kind of that things I need to store, right? So the first object is obviously the hospital. Next one, in my hospital I obviously need some doctors. So again we have doctors table. So I will create a new table for this doctors. Obviously then we have some nurses will be there, and then the other staffs will be there, and and all of these are to manage some kind of patients, right? So we need to consider the details of all those things, what kind of data will be there, what data I need to be saved of each and every. Let's say we have doctor, so I only need the details of this doctor, right? Only the professional, not the personal details. I don't need the personal details, like what his father's name is, what he where does this doctor live in. I don't need that kind of details for a doctor, right? I may need these kind of details for my patients, because obviously uh, to cure him or her in a very good manner, I need to know all about these things. So these kind of things which we need to consider before designing any database, any table. So we are going to have a separate class for that what we need to consider and what we don't need to consider. So the first thing which we are going to learn in upcoming classes, that how to design a table. All right. And now let's say I have created a student table, and we have learned that what SQL can do. SQL can do fetch some data. I mean, I can know what kind of a student, what number of students I have in my school. Insert any data. I mean, if the new student will come, I will simply add a new row for that. Delete any data. We have already seen that what SQL can do, right? So we are going to learn each one of them one by one. Okay. And now, okay, when I expand this database, we don't only see the table section, we also have database diagram section here. Then we have some other things as well. So there are lots of things which we need to learn. These are views, these are procedures, store procedure, functions, assemblies, type, rules. So there is a very things which we are going to learn, but for now we are going to basically see some basics only for now. Basics for now. Okay, let's start one of the uh, okay, file system. Suppose I am managing my school using the file system. What kind of things I can do? I will first create. Let's see practically. Let's say I want to manage my school using my file system. So for the first thing which I will create is a folder name with school, right? Because I am going to manage my school using this folder, using this file system. All right, now in this folder, what the other things I want? Other things like how many student section will be there, right? So I will create a student folder. Next, I want to manage, I have my teachers, so I will create a teachers folder. I will create some staff, other staff folder. Okay, and the most thing which I left is school details folder. Right, now can we manage or can we see that which teachers are teaching which students? I mean, let's say in my school there are 10 students. Okay, let's say just give the name of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, so these are the names of students, and I only have two teachers, X and Y. Okay, now can we see via using this file system that which teachers, let's say X teacher is teaches to whom? Let's say in practical, this X teacher teaches these students A to E, and this Y teacher is teaches from F to J these students. Okay, in practical in my school. But can we find out by using this file system?
No, ma'am.
No, we cannot. If I want to do that, I need to have a different folder. Let's say teacher with student. Now in this section, what in this folder, what will I store is that which teacher teaches which student. Let's say some new teacher arrived. Let's say T, name T. So now I want to consider that what who will be who what the students will be go to this teacher. I mean, which subject this teacher will teach and to whom it will teach. Let's say teacher T teaches only separate file in this, let's say a notepad. And in this notepad, what will I write? I will just simply write teacher A teacher teacher T teaches F and G student, right? But again, is it enough to only store the name of the student? Let's say I have a school, and in my school there can be two students with the same name. Let's say again one more student has arrived in my school and the name of this school is also F. Let's just think of a scenario only. Just imagine the things which I'm talking about. So in that case, is it only enough to store only the name of the students? No, isn't
No,
right,
ma'am. Yes.
because we will get confused that which one, this F or this F. So I need to again store the whole details of these students, right? Whole details means the name, age, address, and all other things which we already have stored in this
Students folder.
students folder, right? So I need
Yes,
to
ma'am.
present the same data in this teachers with student table, student folder, right? Again, if let's say there is another teacher with the same name, then again it will be quite confusing for us that which T teacher teaches this F and G. It can be this teacher or this teacher, which one of them. It is again quite confusing, right? So for that I need to again store the whole details of this teacher in this folder as well, right? So in this scenario, we can think of this that the data means details, student details and teachers details right? Are repeating itself again and again, over and over. So it is a wastage of memory. I mean, if I already have saved the data of teacher once in my separate folder, then why do I need to create the other folder with different name but the same data? But we need to do this because I need to find out which teacher teaches which student. Right? So I need to have a separate folder, but I need to again the same data which already present in different folders, right? So in file system we have same data repeating over and over. So these kind of things can be eliminated by using this database, and how this is going to happen we are going to see this at a later point of time. But for now you can think of this that this database management system can reduce this, not completely, but it can reduce this. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. Sorry. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Decent table, or what mean that? Can you write down in the chat box, please? I can see, and then answer can answer you. Yeah, I'll just send a message to you. Just there will be a pop-up or notification will sound to you. Just click on that and message there. Because your question is not clear to me, that's why I'm asking.
I was asking like about the graphical table and another kind of table. Is this the same?
Another kind of table.
What I only catch the graphical, but the other name of the other table I did not hear about it.
Still confusing for me. Why? I don't know why, but you mean that this is our table, right? Yeah, yeah.
Design.
Yeah, I have mentioned the student table and the teacher table. Yeah. So what's the question is?
The difference between the graphical and design table. That's what he typed.
Okay, okay, okay. So dif okay, okay. Difference between design and graphical table, right? Okay. Okay. So design is basically a technique. Graphical is just the representation, right? Let's say I want to do something. Let's say I want to write a program, or let's say I want to prepare a tea. So for different persons, there will be different techniques. For me, it's very simple. I'll just put a pan on the stove and then just have some tea or sugar. So that's kind of technique which I usually do to prepare my tea. But for someone else who already used a pack of tea and then just put on the glass and just make this tea, right? So different techniques for preparing the same tea with different taste already also, right? So design is basically a technique. We need to learn this technique. Let's say I have a requirement to manage my school. So for now, let's say I don't know anything, but I know this folder system. So this way I can manage my school, right? So this is also a technique, but very old technique which are not using nowadays. So designing is basically a technique how to create your table, what the name should be there, what the data should you use there. So design is basically that. And graphical representation of this table, when let's say I have created so many tables there, and what kind of data are there, and what kind of properties I have there, that is termed as what the graphical representation. We can actually see the graphical representation of our tables using this database diagrams, because diagrams is basically what as a graphical representation of our database, which will show the connection, and what are connection I'll let you know later. But just the connection which we have learned about which teacher teaches which student. So this is basically what a connection is, meaning there will be some separate connection with each teacher with different students, right? So this is what a representation is. I hope it is clear to you now.
I got that.
Thank you. Okay. So we are talking about this file system, right? So as we can see that this system is not enough to manage our school, right? Because let's say if I only have 10 to 15 students, then it is possible to manage via this file system. But let's say I have thousands of students are there in my school, so it will be quite confusing repeating data over and over, and again so many things which will be there, which is nothing but wasting of our time, and wasting of our time plus our memory, right? So to overcome these problems, we have defined and we have created our dbms. It is going to reduce that kind of things, and what the problems are there in file system, we are going to have a separate class on that as well. But I'll just briefly explaining these things for now. We have just seen the repeating of data, right? But there are much more things which is present in file system. Let's say see a detail. Let's say I in my school let's say in my school there is a student called xyz, okay, and his father name is kb. Just taken an example, and his age is, let's say for now his age is 20, and he is reading in class 12. Let's think of a situation when he will appear for the final examination and he will transfer to class 12 to class 13, right? And let's say his name is xyz, but for later point of time he think of this to use his surname xyz, let me lt or something, anything to change his name, right? So we can already see that for a single student we have how many folders are there? We have two folders are there, and I have the same data in these two different folders. So if he think and if he decided to change his name, I need to change the same data two times in these folders, right? I need to go and look for that particular student and then search for that particular student name, and I need to update, right? So we need to update the same data two times. But in database management system this is not going to be the case. There is a centralized data. Yeah. What does this centralized mean? Let's say in your area there will be some bank like xyz bank, right? And there may be multiple branches of that particular bank in different location, right? But let's say in this branch I have already opened my account with my id proofs and all of that stuff, but I again go to some different branch and I want to register again. Were they allow me to do so? No, they will simply tell us that you are already a registered student or a registered customer for us, right? So they will just refuse to register again. But can you imagine, this branch is so far from this branch and they still know about me, all of my things, that how many days you have registered, what kind of amount you have in your bank account, all kind of things they can tell me, right? But then how it's possible actually? Because they have a database for all the accounts. Yes, they have a database for all the accounts, but not only for this particular location, but all the datas are stored on a in a centralized location. There will be a center location, a center database, not different database for different branches. Only one database will be there, which is centralized and which is accessed by all the other branches, right? So in the same way we are going to use the same concept, centralized. In our file system we haven't used this concept, because every time when I need to store some data I will create different folders. If I again need the same data I will create different folder, different files with the same data. So this is not a correct way to do so. We are going to use a centralized, meaning we will store the data at single place, and all the other things, all the other ones are going to access this. So for that what will I create? If I talk about in the file system, I am going to create a simple student table, and in this student table I only store the data of that student, no other places, only one place, and at only one place. So we use this centralized concept in our DBMS. That's why it help us to reduce the redundancy, duplication, all that things. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think it's enough for today. We will continue
Yes, ma'am.
tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. See you later.
Yeah, thank you for today.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sorry. Yes, please. Yes, yes. No, no, I do not understand. Please. What does it say? I don't know. Okay, thank you. Look, these are just. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much, and please continue. Yes. Yes, please. Yeah, just wait for a second. All right. So, have you guys? Okay. So, have you guys write any program yet related to nested for loop or operators? Last class, which we have
Yes, ma'am, I
learned.
did, and I can practice.
That's great. Okay, so this class is going to be a practical class. What we have learned in the last class, we are going to see the same output step by step, that they are going to they give the same result or not. Let me just open my ppt file. So we have operators. So the first operator which we have learned about, it was arithmetic operators, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So